Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
So you had a great event yesterday.
Yeah.
I was just wondering, what was the topic that you share with the Vietnamese audience?
What I shared yesterday was the outline of a formula for achieving success, making money, that applies to basically any business or industry, any job function. So it's really an overall formula that allows you to take any vision you have for the future, a goal, any outcome that you want, and the word we use is an intention, that you create an intention, and then to turn that intention into a reality. And the way you do that is by learning how to navigate through both worlds of success, which is the inner world, what happens up here, your mindset, and then the outer world of success, which is your real world business strategies. How do you run a business? How do you build it? How do you grow it? How do you learn how to be wrong in business? And sometimes you're wrong, very often you are. And how do you maximize on the lessons, minimize the pain, and then try again? And then ultimately, when you get things right, how do you really grow a business? How do you add a zero onto your income and turn a small mom and pop into a regional player, and then ultimately a huge company? And wrapped in that is, what I really specialize in, known for, is persuasion. Is, how do you learn how to close the deal? How do you increase your closing rate, shorten your sales cycle, develop long-term customers for life? So it was, the only challenge was a very short period of time yesterday, but got a lot of info in there and gave people some, massive value. So it was a really good day.
You are famous of creating the straight line sales system. Could you kind of explain a little bit, what is it?
What the straight line really does is it shows you, it's a very simple formula, shows you what has to line up, what are the things that really have to take place in someone else's mind before they say, yes, I want to do this. So it shows you what those things are, and it shows you a very simple way to line them up one at a time. So it sort of demystifies the sales process. What happens with many people is they're not natural with sales. They're a little overwhelmed by it, and they don't know, what do I do first? What do I do second? They don't know what to do, right? So what the straight line does, it's a very formulaic, systematic approach that allows you to basically sell anything to anyone.
Well, I know you are a born salesman, no doubt about it. But for the people, for the person, for an entrepreneur who is not a born salesman, what are some of the steps that they must take to improve their sales skills?
Well, and that's a great point, because the issue is that for every born salesman, there's 100 people who are not. So it's like, and it's such a crucial skill that if you're lacking in that skill set, it holds you back. You could possess all the other skills for success. You can know how to market yourself, market your products. You could have a positive mindset, right? Know how to run a business, but if you can't close the deal, it's hard to make money. So some of the basic steps for people that are struggling is, number one, becoming aware that it's not just what you say, but how you say it. Your tonality, your body language, how you listen to people when they talk to you. So in other words, a great salesperson is an expert at getting into rapport. So if I were to ask you a question and say, tell me a bit about your business, and then as you're responding to me, someone that's not very competent will just sit there and look at you. And versus someone who's like, oh, I see, and I have a way of, through body language, facial expressions, my little grunts and groans, is to, you're saying, wow, the guy's getting me, he understands, and we get into rapport very, very deep like that. There are certain key questions you have to ask, big picture questions, and then go to small picture questions. So there's a group of questions, and then there are these core tonalities of, how do you sound excited and enthusiastic, and how do you sound passionate, or something's in short supply, and so there's these little tonalities, and what happens is it's so easy to learn because we do this stuff every day, we just don't realize it. So when you become aware of these things, it's just very simple for anybody to apply them to a sales process, and also just to regular communication, to become a more effective communicator in anything, whether it's with your children, your spouse. It could be a politician communicating to his constituents. It could be a teacher talking to the children. It cuts to everything.
So are you saying a great salesman can be made?
Absolutely.
How can you sell a not so good product?
How could you sell not so good? Well, I mean, listen, the idea is, and I've made that mistake in the past, right? So the idea is that, you know, you wouldn't want to do that. And I don't really think the straight line is about that. And I don't want it to be about that. You know, the idea is to use the straight line system to help people solve their problems, get the things they need, resolve their pain, not to sell someone a crappy product so you can make a commission. So my suggestion is, if you have a product that's really not good and up to snuff, either get a new product or get a new job if you work with the company, because you don't want to be out there selling garbage. It's just, you know, it's something you don't want to be doing.
Sure. You had quite of a life back then. You went up to the top, you went down to the bottom. I mean, looking back at the whole journey, what were some of the biggest lessons in terms of being an entrepreneur?
Well, one of the biggest lessons is what I just said, is that, you know, this, you know, when I say you don't want to be selling things that aren't the best, I've made that mistake where I sacrificed quality. I grew so fast that I couldn't come up with any more good companies, good stocks, so the quality started to drop. So I think that's one crucial lesson, is that at the heart of all business success, it's about delivering value, learning how to make money, how to monetize value. So if you're not delivering value, just looking to get money back, it's not a sustainable strategy. So certainly that's, you know, focus on giving value. And in business, it's very easy to monetize value once you know the rules. So focus on value. Number two, I would say is that understanding the importance of cash flow versus profits. I think a lot of people, when they're getting into business, they don't understand the importance of cash and what that really means to a business, and how being in a strong cash position allows you to make really good decisions. And also that very often in a business, especially a new business, there are very simple ways to dramatically improve your cash flow, to cut certain types of deals with suppliers and banks, and just the way you structure your business. So you could actually manage your cash flow. It's certainly a very powerful lesson. And then also, you know, I think one of the things I've learned just through all my big successes and failures is that ultimately we're defined as human beings, as business people and as people, by what we do when we're wrong. How do we handle failure? How do we handle getting knocked down? Do we let it destroy us, or do we pick ourselves back up and learn from it and grow stronger? So I think one of the great lessons for myself is that, you know, within every failure lies a lesson, and if you're willing to embrace that lesson and grow from it and learn and work harder and try again, you could ultimately become more powerful than you ever imagined.
Yeah, but the world today, the business world today, is so much different from back in the 90s. I mean, from your opinion, do you think there are some business concepts that are still applicable today, and some of the concepts that has worked before but don't work today?
Oh, I don't think the business world is any different than it was. There's the same rules apply. If there's one thing that's different, it's just that things are moving so fast. But the actual overarching rules of business, they're no different. You know, we see these aberrations out there, and you know, we get the wrong idea because, you know, we'll hear about a company like a WhatsApp where they go out and they get sold for like $19 billion. You know, they never had any revenue, and we wonder how they did that. And you know, we hear about you know, companies like Uber where there's mega growth around the world, but those situations are not typical. They're not typical situation. So and they have massive amounts of venture capital behind them. So while they're not making any money, they're raising tens, if not, you know, $100 million from Wall Street and bankers around the world. So, you know, I just think it's important that people are aware, the average person is aware, that that's not really a duplicatable strategy. The average person has to be grounded in the real world. So there are things that have changed. For instance, online has become such a huge aspect of business. But the concept of what does online mean? Well, all it really means is it's a new place to get your leads. You still had to get leads in the world 20 years ago. You got to get leads today. How you monetize those leads? Well, yes, with online you can take the sales process a bit further sometimes, depending. You can almost generate some amount of money without ever speaking to someone. But even then, you're required to have your message out there, either on a video or in copy. So it's you know, things aren't that much different. What's really happened is the, you know, the online revolution has sped things up. It's created a paradigm shift in terms of where marketing dollars are being spent. So there are new things to be learned, like, you know, how do you navigate through social media? How do you navigate through the internet? But the rules of the game are the same. And it's about, you know, delivering value at a price, learning how to identify your target market, who's your best buyer. The rules aren't any different.
For startups and entrepreneurs in, let's say, emerging markets like Vietnam, what is the chance of getting in touch with the venture capitalists in the West?
It's minute. I don't think that's the strategy that people should be looking to actually to do in the beginning.
Okay.
In other words, if you're in Vietnam and you're looking to ultimately get to some Western bankers to raise big money, I think that there's things that have to come before that.
Okay.
So there's going to be some angel investors at a lower level that are actually getting you to a point where you have significant traction, where you have a proof of concept, where you actually have an operating business. And then ultimately, yes, you can get money from a Western banker, you know, from venture capitalists. But again, for the most part, you're going to start off in Vietnam, going to people in Vietnam who are wealthy and successful, getting your first capital there. And then once you have your strategy a bit more substantial, I think it's much smarter for people to start and get traction using money locally. There's so much money in Vietnam right now. You can find, once you know how to raise venture capital, you can get money in Vietnam.
Sure. And
then once you do and you grow the business, then you can start looking to raise bigger money.
You did a lot of trainings on the mindset, let's say, turning the intention, the ideas into reality. I mean, if people have a great idea, what should they do to turn it to reality? What are some of the first steps?
Well, the first step is just to get clear on really what you want, and it's a step that most people never take. They, you know, they will set a goal. And a goal is very different than having a fully integrated vision where you can really see what the business looks like, what your life will look like in 5 years from now, and why. So to really, you know, to insinuate yourself, to get that vision so clear, because that serves as your target. And without that, it's very, very hard to see. So that's certainly one crucial aspect of getting started, is having that vision for the future. And then the second aspect is learning how to share that vision with other people, because you're going to need other people on your team. This is where the communication skills start coming into play. Whether it's going to be to hire key employees, to get people to want to buy into your vision, whether it's be for raising money, right? So that's certainly the next step is communication. And the third step is the actual real world business strategies that allow you to deliver the value and make money, versus go out there and try to deliver the value and it costs you more than you're selling it for, which is what happens with a lot of people. They don't understand how to run a business. So when I talk about manifesting success, harnessing the power of intention, what I'm really talking about is a combination of mindset and strategy, seamlessly integrated to form one cohesive strategy that runs from the outer world right to the end. It's just sort of this endless loop, and you take your ideas and put them into this loop, and they turn into reality.
For an entrepreneur, how do they look for good opportunities?
Well, you know, listen, there's lots of different you know, ways that people brainstorm and come up with great ideas. You know, listen, number one, I'm a big believer in that people should first start off and try to do something in their area of their passion, what they really enjoy, what they love, right? Sometimes that's not possible. In truth, it's not. You know, the money is not in your passion, it's somewhere else, right? You know, one of the things that I've always had success of is not so much inventing ideas, you know, inventing new markets, but taking ideas that are out there and making them more accessible, more user-friendly. You know, a great example of that is Apple. You know, Apple didn't invent the phone. They didn't invent the music player, right? I mean, the first person that really knocked the music player out of the market was Sony with the Walkman, right? But then Apple came along with a much better, and before they had these MP3 players that were impossible to use, right? You know, there was lots of cell phones out there and so-called smartphones before Apple invented the iPhone, but they found a better way. So I think that, you know, one of the you see entrepreneurs is they're always looking at what's going on and trying to find a better way. I think that's a really great starting place, is to go to your area of passion that you love, see what people are doing, and just sit there and try different combinations, and eventually, you might hit on something, and eventually you will if you keep going at it. And then it's about running your strategies for manifesting the ideas you have.
I want to go back to selling a little bit. For an entrepreneur, a leader, how do you recruit and manage a team of talented salesmen? How do you recruit salesmen? Well,
for me, and again, it depends on what industry you're in. It depends on what your core skill sets are. For me, it's always been so easy to train salespeople from scratch.
Because you are born salesmen.
And also with the straight line system, it's just very easy to train people. It's a very duplicatable system. So for me, it's always been that I like to hire people who weren't already seasoned salespeople but had desire, and I could train them myself. So for me, I like that. But it's not always the best way. There's some industries where you can grow much faster by hiring people who have experience but that want to become indoctrinated into a new system. The risk you run with that is that there's not as much loyalty. There's a lot of bad habits they bring into your company. So you have to be prepared to have an indoctrination period where you're actually taking seasoned salesmen and moving them into your process. So, but I think you can go both routes. You can train from scratch, hire seasoned people, but if you're going to hire seasoned people, you have to then indoctrinate them the way you want things done.
So now, after everything have passed, I mean, you're now making a new life. What is your mindset and approach to doing business now? Anything changing from the past?
Well, for me, it's an interesting journey because, the movie was such a huge success around the world. Yeah. And I think it was also like the movie was like illegally downloaded like 31 million times. So just people keep watching it again and again and again, right? It's a huge success. So for me, it's about, protecting my brand, growing my brand, and, spreading the message that I have about, empowerment and making money ethically, learning how to harness the power of intention, learning how to become a closer. And, I've had massive success all over the world in markets like Vietnam and Australia and the United States, right? So, for me, it's really, about methodically. I'm not in a big rush because, it's like my business is it does really, really well.
Yeah.
And there's only, I'm in all these different countries around the world, right? So, I'm working on a couple of different ideas right now, really how to leverage my brand through online offerings, through coaching programs and stuff like that will allow me to sort of move beyond me going and giving a speech and getting paid, which is fabulous because I make a lot of money, but it's trading time for money. So the idea is then to build a business around that.
And you have a goal to pay back all the debt from the speaking tours?
Well, I'm almost paid back. I mean, it's actually not that much left. So I'm actually trying to get down to the number. The number is probably around 11 million. That's it. It's not much anymore. It was started off at like 100. So
would you return back to Wall Street? Have you ever thought about it?
No, I wouldn't. Well, I mean, I already do stuff on Wall Street. So it's not that I already do banking deals and stuff. But to me, Wall Street's a great place. And I have a lot of friends there, but at this point, I think Wall Street's a young man's game. So if I was 22, maybe I'd go to Wall Street, But, I kind of like my life the way it is. I live on the beach. I love traveling around the world. I love mentoring people and,
So, I mean, looking back to your journey, I mean, from the stuff that you're sharing in your book, what was the biggest mistake that you made that you think you could have done differently?
The biggest mistake, there was a couple. One of them was simply growing too fast. The straight line was so effective that I could train anyone and make them into a great salesperson. But the problem with that was they would sell so much, I ran out of products. I couldn't keep up with stock, and then and then what happens is like the quality when you have nothing to sell, you're like, well, I guess I'll sell that. And the quality, in retrospect, I should have slowed down. I should have slowed down my growth. That would have had a huge positive effect on my ability to maintain control. And then also, I made some errors in judgment. I was young and had a couple of bad mentors, and they showed me some ways of doing things that weren't 100% legitimate, and I took some cash under the table, and so I engaged in a couple of transactions, and I would certainly avoid those going. If I was going to do it again, I would definitely fix that. Those are the main things.
But you told the press earlier in the meeting that one of the big mistakes that the first step that go across the line.
Exactly.
Right?
Well, that's what I was referring to when I said, I made these. I took a bag of cash. Well, that was really the first step.
Yeah.
And you always have a rationalization. Well, I won't do it again. Everyone's doing it. But the truth is that once you take that first step, it just starts a chain reaction, and then you start, through these tiny, almost imperceptible steps, little bit, and you start doing things you thought you'd never do, and it all seems perfectly okay.
But entrepreneurs, businessmen is always ambitious and greedy. I mean, for the first step, it's always temptation right there. But how do you, for entrepreneurs, what do you advise for them? What do you advise for them in order to stay away from that first step?
Well, you used two words there, and almost interchangeably, but they're really not interchangeable. You used the words ambition and greed, and there's a difference. Ambition is healthy.
Yeah.
Greed is not healthy. Greed becomes about making as much as you can, as fast as you can, and you don't really care who gets hurt along the way, versus ambition is about creating value and making the world a better place.
Yeah.
So I'd focus on being ambitious and avoid being greedy.
Okay, so you will come back to Vietnam in March for the training. Could you share with us more about that?
Yeah, well, listen, I had a great experience here the other day where I, was in an event, and it was myself and a couple of the speakers, and the challenge I faced there is I really only spoke for a few hours. So I'm able to sort of outline what are the lessons, what are the things you need to know, but I'm not able in that short, I'm good, but I'm not that good. You can, in 2.5 hours, I can't teach everybody what they need to know. So what I did is my method is in a couple hours, you hit all the points, show them the formula. But when I come back here, I'm coming back in on March 28th through the 30th, now I get to actually dig in to each aspect and actually teach people the skills they need to succeed. So they actually come out with actual strategies, they come out with certain tools, actual tools they can use to brand themselves, to position themselves as an expert, to market themselves more effectively, to bring in more leads. They get to learn how to run a business and how to, really put their mindset in the right track that attracts success. So it's going to be, 3 amazing days, but hard work. People got to be prepared to really, it's about making a change. Listen, I'm a very results-oriented person, so I don't want anyone, if you're not into really making a change and taking, then it's not for you. I'm into people who really want to make money, who really want to get ahead, who want to do things ethically, who want to become rich, who want to be wealthy, and want to really achieve. And that's my audience, and I attract those people. And when you're in a room and we spend 3 days together with a whole bunch of people like that, the energy is infectious, and just being around those people, the networking opportunities, and it just has everyone feeds off of each other. So I would say to someone, listen, if you really want to be successful and you're willing to roll up your sleeves and do some work, I'm your guy. If you're looking for a get-rich-quick scheme and I'm not your guy. But but I can take something. If you really have desire and you're willing to work, I can show you how to take any idea you have and turn that idea into a business, and then show you how to monetize that, grow it, and really live an empowered life. And I think that it amazes me how so few people live that way. Most people don't live empowered lives. They don't really understand how much power they have to control their own circumstances, that they can take ideas and make them real. It's just, I live my life that way, and all the wealthy people I know who are really successful, they all live like that, and it just baffles us where there's so many people just don't understand how easy that is. So my goal, and I will accomplish it in those 3 days, I'm going to transfer that information, and people will see just how easy it is, and I don't mean there's no hard work involved, but just how easy it is to live a life that really, that makes you just want to jump out of bed, that turns you on, and that allows you to get rich.
What do they prepare if they want to get the most out of it?
Well, if someone goes to the website, you could probably put the website on the bottom here. I don't know what the website is in Vietnamese, but if you go there, once you buy a ticket, you'll start getting some pre-trainings, which consists of some mindset stuff. Because it's important that, I don't want to teach people strategy before they come. I want to do that in person.
All right.
But what I do want to do is I want to get people thinking successfully before they even come up. So we start sending out some free lessons. It gets you geared up for the mindset of success. And then when you arrive, it's just 3 days, we lock the doors, and we just go at it, and you emerge really as a different person, just more directed, possessing skills you never thought you could have, and really wanting to embrace life and take action, and the results that people get is amazing.
Right. Thank you so much.